Hello friends, welcome to this show, Dr. G.K. Goswami IPS. You are well aware that our institute UPSIFS Lucknow, where I served as the founding director, is committed to make people aware. And today I am here to share you the third part of the Indian criminal laws which have been implemented from 1st July 2024. So friends, we have already discussed with you two series earlier and today it is the third series. In first series, we have discussed about Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita BNS 2023, which actually replaced our Indian Penal Code of 1860. The second series, Series 2, was related to Bharatiya Saksh Adhiniyam 2023, which replaced the Indian Evidence Act 1872. And today we are here actually to discuss with you the third series of Indian major criminal laws which have been placed into action from 1st July. So it is BNSS, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, which has replaced CRPC of 1973. As I already mentioned you multiple times that the shift of these three laws mainly from punishment to justice. That is why Bharatiya Dand Sanhita has been named as Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. And Criminal Procedure Code is basically for BNSS, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha. So Nagrik Suraksha word has been introduced in place of CRPC. So this is the beauty of these laws. So let's start, dear friends. As I already mentioned, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, this is series 3 and I hope that we shall discuss it for about say 1 hour, maximum by 1 hour and 10 minutes. So let us recapitulate. I have already talked about the three laws and date of implementation again to refreshing the memory. 1st July 2024, the pilot project was conducted in Chandigarh Police and that was culminated by our Honorable Prime Minister of India on 3rd December 2024 in Chandigarh, and I was also one of the members to attend that function. Right? So the objective and vision for all these three, although earlier we have discussed, but many of the the participants or the viewer today, they may be first time looking at, but I sincerely request to watch our earlier series 1 and series 2 also on 4th and 9th June of 2025 respectively. The series 1 was discussed on 4th June and series 9 on 9th June. So the focus has been shifted from colonial to citizen centric. That means the Indianization. Now these laws are oriented containing the Indian cultural ethos. So that is very important part. The simplification of language is also very important. The jargonized words have been avoided to utilize. The accountability, transparency and efficiency are also attributes to these laws. Then protection of individual right. Then it is citizen-centric, as I told. Basically in British rule, the laws were actually to serve the British rurals, British government. But now the country is independent and these laws are serving for the people, we the people who are the real governing body. They are gender sensitive and we are living in the age of technology and science. So how law can be devoid of introducing the technology parts? That is why these laws have incorporated the latest trend in technology so that our criminal justice system should be made transparent and more accountable by using science and technology. Likewise, the police had been earlier tagged as brutal, British oriented. Now these laws are oriented to make police more accountable, more public friendly, and more transparent in their working. Their professionalism has also been centric to these laws. Then rationalize the court. Then speedy and time-bound justice. As everybody knows that delay justice, denied justice. So speedy trial is very much important part of fair trial. Then protection against false prosecution. This is the most important and glaring aspect, as the law stress, underline, underscore, saying that even if hundreds of culprit get scot free, but not even a single innocent be punished. That is the beauty of the laws, but it is difficult to implement. However, these laws have stressed to bring, or to ensure that innocent should be saved. Now, if we see the comparative account, how these laws have been placed or accommodated. So, the IPC, the chapters were 23, and there were 511 sections. So 23 chapters were housed actually for keeping 511 sections, but in this BNS, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, there are 18 chapters and sections are 338. That means there are large number of sections have been deleted. Nearly you can say about 175 roughly sections have been deleted. CRPC, there were 37 chapters and they were managing for 84 sections, but now there are some increase in chapters as well as in sections. So now in BNSS there are 39 chapters and they manage 531 sections. In Indian Evidence Act of 1872, friends, there were 11 chapters housing 167 sections. But in Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam of 2023, there are 12 chapters to manage 170 sections. So this is the matrix of these laws for your kind understanding. So now let's move to BNSS, because we have already discussed Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita as well as Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam. So I have given salient feature of Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. So let's see what are the salient feature. So total section, as we have already mentioned, there were in CRPC 484 sections, but now BNSS have 531. If we see use of technology, it was very much limited, although by way of introducing some amendments in our CRPC, lot of technological innovation and requirement were incorporated. However, now in the modern law, which we have introduced in 2024, it has been systematically, adapted the role of technology in criminal justice system. So see use of technology, for example, in BNSS, the eFIR, e-warrant, digital trial, digital FIR, they have been incorporated per se. It is not only to just extrapolate. They are very much mentioned by the term itself. Likewise, zero FIR. we will talk in detail, but earlier in 2013-14, Lalita Kumari versus State of UP has introduced silently the concept of zero FIR. That was very important, and I always mention that suppose you are traveling in a train and you are sleeping in the night and somewhere your luggage or your belongings have been stolen. In the morning you came to know about the incidents, you don't know where it has happened. Now where to go to lodge FIR, that was the problem. So now that problem has been addressed and concept of zero FIR has been duly acknowledged in BNSS. We will tell about in the subsequent section today during discussion that which section they are dealt with. Then forensic investigation. Friends, we were using DNA and other technology, of course, since many decades, and few technology like fingerprint maybe more than a century, but they were not mandatory. It was the sweet will of the police whether they use or not. So they take lame excuses for various reasons, and they generally avoid collecting DNA, collecting various other forensic sample, right? And they were more dependent on oral testimony, which, as you know, oral testimony may be very important undoubtedly, but there are chances of defects, okay? They may change floor, like getting hostility and all, whatnot. But the beauty of BNSS under section 176(3), now the visit of forensic expert to collect forensic evidence became mandatory as soon as the information of commission of offense is reported to police station, especially in those offenses where punishment is either 7 years or more. That means in heinous type of crime, the collection of forensic evidence is mandatory. That is underlying. That shall word has been used. So that is the beauty of this BNSS. Then time-bound investigation. Like for example, 60 days under section 193 of BNSS for sexual offense. It is not perpetually cases were pending in the police station to conclude investigation. Now it is binding on the police. If there is any chance of extending, then it has to be given the reasoned explanation for that. Then victim's right. Although victim compensation and other things were available earlier to some extent, but now in a systematic approach, by introducing the chapter itself, the victim's right have been protected, because it is the victim who suffered, and everybody in the criminal justice system is actually to protect the right of the victim. Of course, accused until unless proved guilty is also considered to be innocent. So right of the accused has also been protected undoubtedly, but victims' right have been given due recognition in these laws. Then bail conditions have also been clearly defined. Then charge framing. There was no specific timeline earlier. Now the timeline has been specified under section 254 of BNSS, that is 60 days. Then summon and warrant. Earlier, lot of time of police and our resources were utilized in serving the summon and warrants. Now e-summon, service of summon and warrant by way of technology, emails, WhatsApp and other mode of communication, IT sector. That is the beauty. It saves lot of resources of police and administration at large, judiciary also. Plea bargaining, that was introduced in CRPC in year 2005, but it has been retained, duly recognized in our BNSS as well. Then in absentia trial, earlier it was not possible to conduct in absentia trial. Now the provisions are there. Suppose a person is absconding for years together, decades together. Now he has to face the trial in absentia and he may be either convicted or whatever the fate of the case may be. Then community service as sixth type of punishment. We will discuss what it is. But community service has been recognized as a type of punishment in BNSS. Then appeal time, earlier it was not defined, but now it is time bound and streamlined. Then mercy petition process, earlier it was not clearly defined, it has been now in BNSS well defined for mercy petitions. Now let us see some important sections, dear friends, because that is my responsibility to make things simple. The entire process of this whole exercise, what we are doing, particularly on this platform, to make from complex to simple, because many of you may be student, many of you may be professional police officers, maybe judicial officers, maybe many more. So I have around 28 plus year of my experience in police and earlier in administration. So I have gathered all those things, collecting my experience from my foreign postings as a Fulbright scholar, then in CBI, working in various districts like SSP Lucknow, Agra, Varanasi, Moradabad, Noida, and many more. So that collective wisdom, what we gathered, we want to transfer and transpire to you so that this knowledge can be spread. And in last 2.5 years, roughly, what we have introduced, what we have established in the institute must also reach to you. That is the major, objective and thrusting point to do this exercise on this platform. And you, particularly as viewer, actually promote our idea. You actually encourage us by way of your comments, by way of your likings and all. That is the driving force, motivation for us. So be with us. So let's talk about the important section 173. Dear friends, as I mentioned, clear cut provisions for EFIR and zero FIR. That are the beauty. Then 176.3, as I mentioned, that forensic evidence collection became mandatory. So what section it is? It is 176.3. And because this institute is for forensic science, so in my opinion, for our purpose, this section is the most important game changer for forensic world, forensic fraternity. So we are very grateful to the government of India to introduce this, and government of Uttar Pradesh and many other executing agencies, that this section has been duly given impetus and importance to introduce forensic science in the investigation. And this institute, particularly UP SIFS Lucknow, my dear friends, is totally committed to translate the law into action. We are actually building the forensic warriors. We are building a brigade of trained professionals in forensic science, cyber security, and they are not only the warriors of forensic science and technology. They are equipped with legal knowledge. So legal compliances, data protection. So it is a kind of concept what we introduced as law with labs is actually translation of section 176.3 of BNSS. So we are the instrument of the government to implement the motive, aims and principles of the law which has been enacted by our esteemed parliament in 2023 and being implemented from 1st July of 2024. Now see section 193.2, that is time-bound investigation in rape cases. That is very, very important. Say a rape victim, if the investigation is lingering on, is pending since many months, what the rape victim will feel. So it is a kind of consolation to her losses. Her confidence will build up if the accused is behind the bar. The action is taken timely. So that is the motive and objective of this time-bound conclusion of investigation. Then comes the section 251, charge framing within 16 days. Earlier, cases were pending years together and people were managing not to get charge framed by one way or other. But now it is the mandate of the law that charges has to be framed within 60 days from the date of filing the charge sheet. Then 258, judgment within 45 days. And if it extends beyond, then honorable judge has to give reasoned order for that, for extension. Section 356, trial in absentia, as I already mentioned, the most important and glaring thing. Otherwise, as a police officer, I have seen hundreds and hundreds of cases where accused were absconding for one reason or other, and cases were pending, that trial cannot be done in absentia. But now it is reverse. Now trial can be conducted in absentia as well. Then section 530. I think section 530 is the embodiment of use of the latest technology, either video and many more. So I urge those who are the legal professionals, the students, the teaching faculty and all, to go through section 530 and you will see the beauty over there. Now the first information report. Friend, basically first information report is initiation of investigation, initiation of criminal proceeding. So when any offense of cognizable nature, what do you mean by cognizable? Cognizable means the offense where the police has power to arrest the accused without any warrant. That means these offenses, cognizable offenses, are heinous in nature. They are grave in nature, and that is why police is empowered to arrest such person without warrant of the court. It formally record commission of a cognizable offense. So there are certain important points to explain, although hours can be talked about FIR. It is a very vast topic, but I will summarize few points for your understanding. Basically, FIR, who can register FIR? FIR can be registered by victim himself or herself, by his or her family members, by any person who has seen the crime or who claims to seen the crime, or any passerby, or any person who says that I have heard about it, or at last, if nobody is coming forward, then police, if came to know about the commission of crime, can also register the FIR or can inform to register FIR. So that is one. Then FIR, what kind of things? It is a broad description of the event, what has been happened over there. So it is not a very detailed type of charter of every minute detail. No, it's not required. It is a general description in a common man's language. So you need not go to consult any advocate for that matter. You can write, but it should be possibly precise. It should not be given very much detail. The detail shall be given when the statement of the informer is recorded by the police. So as a police officer, I suggest you to give a brief description of the incident, what you know or what has happened in your knowledge. That is enough. Then lodged generally at police station where the event or the incident has happened, but as I mentioned, zero FIR is also an alternative. We will talk just about that. By the victim or his family, non-person, other person, or even police. I have already mentioned this. So certain features of FIR. FIR, as I mentioned, is most important. It is very important. Why? Because those who are doing graduation or post-graduation, LLM courses and others, FIR is important. There are chances to get some questions. Even for those who are appearing for competitive exams, either for multiple choice or theoretical also, the FIR is very, very important area where you are expected to see the questions. So this is most critical and important point. It is very minor and there are procedures because CRPC or BNSS is a procedural law. So applicability, it applies to the cognizable offense. As I mentioned, cognizable means those offences which are of heinous nature, where police has power to arrest a person without warrant of the court. Then mode of registration, FIR can be filed in person, that means you can go to police station, you can lodge it by telephone, you can lodge it by your email or SMS, whatever, and there is no need even to get it in writing. You can even tell them, the policeman will write it and get your signature. But always remember that when you are telling something to somebody, please make sure that you should read it before signing, so that what you have said has been written. Because once it is written, signed, it is lodged, then it is a permanent document. So be very cautious, careful that what you have informed is right to the best of your knowledge. So FIR is the base of investigation, and that is being discussed till the end. And sometimes if it is inordinate delay, you have to explain why it is inordinate delay. So FIR, everything, every word means a lot. So be little cautious. Although it should not be fabrication, but if you are honest what you are saying, then definitely it will be a good piece of document which has lot of evidentiary value to some extent. Then eFIR provision, I already mentioned that earlier. It was introduced by Lalita Kumari, particularly that, especially that whether you can conduct preliminary inquiry or not, that we will come. Then audio video recording, as I mentioned, 330 sections in BNSS is most important. And now audio video recording, not only for recording your statement, even for the trial. And you remember those days when the entire humanity was suffering with COVID. So our Indian judiciary has introduced this beautiful procedure of video recording or video trial, right? Trial proceeding or court proceeding rather. Even the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court was also delivering justice in the thick and thin of the COVID period. So that is the commitment of our administration, whether it is judiciary or and all were in function. And I don't believe that our judiciary or our judicial system was at any time rest, even if it was deep of the COVID. The zero FIR, I already mentioned that the zero FIR, let me just explain what is zero FIR to those who are unaware of this fact. See, if you go to lodge an FIR in the police station, a number of identification is being allotted to each FIR. How it is written? Say for example, there are, your FIR is registered on number 25 in the book of FIR. So the first word will be 25, oblique the year. Now the time is 2025, year is 2025. So FIR number would be 25/2025, right? But in zero FIR, the first word, because the number has not been allotted. Why number has not been allotted? Because the incident has not happened to that police station where it is being lodged. So there it will be written 0/ the year when it is being recorded. So 0/ year. And after that, the FIR copy will be sent to the concerned police station to take necessary action, or in other words, to initiate investigation. Then complainant right to get copy. Earlier it was there, of course, and copy free of cost. So if you have lodged an FIR, my dear friend, then you have a right to get a copy then and there in police station free of cost. Nobody can charge any money. It is written in the statute. Then redressal for refusal of FIR. In case FIR, the SHO refuse, many times it happens in various police stations that you go to lodge an FIR in police station, and SHO or other policemen who interact with you there, he refuse, or he just say nilly-dilly type of thing that you come tomorrow, may come evening, and you are getting means puzzled. So you have the recourse to go and meet the SP of the district, the superintendent of district, or the deputy commissioner of the district in person and give the copy of your complaint to lodge FIR. Alternatively, you need not to go compulsorily, you can send it by the post also. In case both these procedures, going to lodge FIR in police station or contacting the SP, doesn't work, then you can approach the court of that police station, that is called magistrate court. Okay, so these are the three ways. Digitization of FIR. Now the BNSS demands and mandate to digitize the FIR. Then FIR is to be part of public. Dear friends, this particularly, it is not mentioned exactly in BNSS, but already our Honorable Supreme Court in 2016, in case of Youth Bar Association of India versus Union of India, the Honorable Supreme Court has directed the law enforcement agency, including police, to publish the FIR mandatorily on public platform within 24 hours. But there are certain exceptions, like in rape case. In those cases where corruption cases have been registered, but there may be possibility of conducting search. So if you are not publishing on website for digital appearance of the FIR for public consumption, then SP has to give reasoned speaking order on the file that why this has not been published on website of the police or on the platform prescribed. Then protection for women and vulnerable victims. For offence like sexual offence, the FIR must be recorded by a woman officer. So there are so many provisions so that the victims will feel comfortable. Suppose a rape victim, the rape survivor goes to police station or to any other, service provider like say medical examination or any other places. At least if there is a female, she can be little comfortable to narrate the problem, narrate the incident what happened. But before male, she may hesitate many things to disclose or to speak, especially in Indian culture. It's very difficult for a victim to speak about her internal matter of sexuality, and especially in rape case or any molestation or something like that. Now, as I mentioned about the preliminary inquiry, just imagine, friends, that police feel that the complaint of crime has some suspicious substance, or there are chances that it may be a frivolous complaint, or there may be some exaggeration of the things. Sometimes it also happens. So earlier there was no provision, and there was a debate rather discussing whether in any case reported for cognizable offence, whether registration of FIR is mandatory or not. By and large, answer was that it is mandatory. But the window for inquiry prior to registration of FIR was open in case of Lalita Kumari versus State of Uttar Pradesh, and that case was decided in year 2014. Although it was decided on 12 November 2023, but it was published in 2014. What were the fact? Lalita Kumari was a minor girl. She was being allegedly kidnapped, and the father wanted to get a case registered. Police believe that the girl has eloped by her consent. So case was not registered. The matter went to the High Court and then to Supreme Court. So legal question was, is the police bound to register an FIR upon receiving information of a cognizable offence under section 154? So friend, earlier for FIR registration section were 154, and now for BNSS it is 173. So this is the question. Now just see what the Supreme Court judgment says. It says the registration of FIR under section 154(1) is mandatory if information of cognizable offence is being reported. So there is no doubt about in Lalita Kumari that the FIR registration is mandatory in cognizable offence. So this is one finding. However, there are exceptions where police can conduct preliminary inquiry before registration of FIR. So these are the cases where matrimonial dispute may be there. Generally it happens that husband, wife or the family members of the groom and bride, they may have some conflicts of various regions. So before going to lodge criminal case, it is better to have some inquiry and sometimes matter gets settled also. Then commercial dispute. Sometimes commercial disputes are mainly of civil nature many a times, but there are certain criminality also. Suppose the fraudulent usage of documents and various other claims, maybe some threat and many more. So whether those criminal element in civil disputes are really existing or they are concocted. So there is a need to examine. That is why need of preliminary inquiry being accepted by our Honorable Supreme Court. Next is the medical negligence. Generally, the doctors are held criminally liable earlier in section 304A and sometime in 304 part 2 also. So doctors are not doing it by choice or by mens rea or by intent, but it is a gross negligence. So whether it is gross negligence or not, that is also to be examined and to investigate, or you can say inquire. That is why preliminary inquiry is being allowed. Like in corruption cases also, there sometime the allegation may be concocted. The person may be, suppose there is a very honest officer, so to make him, to give him lesson, sometime the concocted stories are being conducted and people are being forced to like getting them trapped. So their case, such cases also the Honorable Supreme Court thought appropriate to conduct preliminary inquiry before lodging FIR. However, the period, and yes, the another area was when the case has been reported after inordinate delay. Suppose after 4 months, after 1 year. So if this is the situation, then court found befitting to conduct inquiry by the police station before taking a final call whether FIR to be lodged or not. The time period, the 15 days was accepted by the Honorable Supreme Court, but in exceptional cases with giving reasonable or reasoned order by the authority of police, not beyond 6 weeks. That is the latest one, 6 weeks. 6 weeks means 45 days roughly, and this judgment was in Lalita Kumari in 2023. So it was not earlier. This is the latest which was mandate. Although after 1st July 2024, this provision may not be necessary because now the police has that power to do that. But the difference between Lalita Kumari and this provision in the latest one, it was available for heinous crime also. But the conducting of preliminary inquiry under 173 subsection 4, my dear friends, is only limited to the crime where punishment is either 7 years or up to 3 years. So 7 to 3 years. The interesting part was that why not below 3 years? That is also a question mark. I think this need to be re-examined by our legislature and lawmakers. But the beauty of Lalita Kumari still exists. And what is that? This is permitted to conduct preliminary inquiry in any case, especially in such cases where what I have written. These are the exceptions where the concept of PE was permitted. But otherwise, the heinous crime in these new section is not being permitted to conduct preliminary inquiry. Now, what is there in preliminary inquiry? As I mentioned earlier, the cognizable offense in our BNSS, section 2G deal with cognizable offense and section 2O deal with non-cognizable offense. Section 174 information in cognizable offense. Earlier it was section 154 as I mentioned. Section 173(4) as I mentioned to conduct preliminary inquiry. This is the section, so I don't take much of time, I have already explained. So for the to save time, right, I want to move ahead. But yes, one thing important is who will give the permission. SHO will take permission from the Deputy SP or above rank officer. So Deputy SP is the minimum rank to get the permission for conducting inquiry before lodging FIR. That's important. Now, FIR provision, I have a comparative account. Generally, you must have observed that in most of my talks, most of my these presentations, I generally prefer to give you a tabular format of matrix so that you can easily compare and remember. So, registration of FIR in cognizable offense, earlier it was 154(1) and now it is 173(1). FIR copy to be given 154(2), now 173(2). So, in both common. Now, if SHO refused to lodge FIR, earlier it was 154(3) to go to SP. And if he does not listen to you, then you have option to go to court, and the section was 156(3). The court ordered FIR registration. But now these two have been clubbed under 173(4) of BNSS. That means that if SHO refuse or your SP refuse or you have to go to court, all are compressed under section 173(4). Preliminary inquiry, there was no particular section earlier in CRPC, although from 2013 onwards, Lalita Kuwari case has given a space to conduct inquiry, but now there is a special provision of 173 subsection 3. Now the forensic investigation. My dear friends, before we move for the forensic investigation, I wish to give you a comparative account of the provisions of forensic evidence collection in CRPC as well as BNSS. So these are the sections. By and large, the entire gambit under CRPC and BNSS remains same. Although, as I mentioned, this red color section 176, which I depicted in color red, is the new invention. It's the new introduction, which is the game changer for forensic domain. And it is not for the forensic domain itself, it is the by and large for the entire judicial system. And here I want to highlight that don't think, my dear friends, that forensic science is only for criminal matters. This is a complete misunderstanding of forensic science. Forensic science is a mindset. Forensic science provides you the instrument, the method, the tool to reach out to truth. And truth is the backbone of justice. If you reach to the correct truth, then you can give the perfect justice. Otherwise, if truth is defective, then justice cannot be perfect. So there are chances of miscarriage of justice. And to reach out to truth, my dear friends, the best thing is the evidence. And that evidence is the fulcrum which actually lead you to get truth, and truth, as I mentioned, go to justice. So this triangle of justice, truth and evidence is the whole edifice on which our justice system stands. So you have to understand the nuances of forensic science. So earlier I was discussing last year in a very big group, very important judicial officials of very highest order, then very prominent advocates and many more academia in one big event in New Delhi last year. And there was a big event of arbitration. I mentioned that arbitration forensics may be a game changer, but very senior people says that, look, what for forensic in arbitration? I humbly said, and I underline here also, that dear friends, in arbitration, believe me, it is entirely on your documents. It is the contest of documents whether it is genuinely being produced or not. Is there any concocted theory or there is any fabrication? And the document, whether it is the signature, it may be handwriting, and it may be even by computer typing. You don't believe that a very prominent case where Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, he was convicted in United Kingdom, in London, for forged document of registration of very costly property in London, in the central London. And how he was or his family was caught and being convicted, very small thing. I tell you how, and then you will understand the nuances of forensic document evidence. What happened? The registered document of the property which were being contested by the opposite party were prepared in the computer font Calibri, and this registration of the property was done in year 2006. So the property document of transfer or the sale deed was executed in year 2006. Now the real forensics start here, and very small thing. Just understand how he was being caught and convicted. Actually, the document of sale deed was prepared in font Calibri, and Calibri font was made available for commercial purpose, for public purpose in year 2007. So how can Calibri be available to construe your deed in 2006? And this was the piece of evidence, my dear friends, which actually lead Nawaz Sharif and his entire family who were involved to be convicted. So this is the power. So mind it that in civil matters, my dear friends, I think forensic science, forensic evidence may be game changer. And it is not only forensic documentation. Basically, you can use the digital footprint. Suppose you have sent email, whether the email document were same or not. Now you will say that the file may be deleted. Okay, you can delete the file, but we can still tell you the content, not exactly the content, but whether it was of the same size of the file was there or not. So there are so many, footprints. So there are so many digital markers to find out whether this communication was genuinely done or not. So my advice to the civil dispute stakeholders is that consider to use forensic science more and more in civil disputes as well. So this is the beauty. Now 176.3, I want to give you more detail little bit, because this is very close to our institute, close to my heart, and I have dedicated nearly 20 years for this field. And I did my chemistry masters, my first PhD in chemistry field, then did LLB, LLM, then my second PhD, then DSc in forensic science law, and recently LLD. I am not imposing something, but just I am telling you that with this background, being a senior police officer and earlier serving as administrative officer, I can proudly say that forensic science is the future. Future not only for the justice system, but for your changing the mindset. Now it is the era of forensic science. So be aware the power of forensic science. Forensic as a service is going to be the next level game changer, and you must have recognized why our honorable Prime Minister, why our honorable Home Minister, and why our honorable CM of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath ji, are giving so much importance to forensic science. There is a meaning. So understand and read between the line. Why so much emphasis? Why so much of resource allocation? Why institute like UPISF, institute like NFSU have been raised? So this is the power of forensic science you must understand and recognize. So I mentioned already 176. Now the first thing is mandatory, visit of forensic expert to crime scene when information is received at police station for commission of offense where punishment is either 7 years or more. That is mandatory. Shall word has been used. Now it is not the choice of the police. Secondly, it will not be collected by police, which can make mistake, mischief, manipulation normally. I am a police officer, I don't believe it, but people allege that. Okay. However, 176(3) ensure that such evidence of scientific nature, forensic nature should be collected by a professional. That is why now every state is actually recruiting the forensic expert to meet the requirement of 176(3). So ample employment opportunity are waiting for you, my dear friends. So it is the time to have education in forensic science, cyber security, AI, and this is actually what we have done law with labs, the interdisciplinary approach. So forensic expert to visit the crime scene, and government has been allocated 5-year time to implement the section, the essence of section 176(3) in letter and spirit. 5-year time is actually for preparation of laboratory, the other resources, manpower and all. But that time has started from the date of execution, that is 1st July 2014. It means 5 year will end by 30th of June 2029. So by 2029, 30th June, this section will operate fully. By then, thousands and thousands of the young forensic expert, digital expert, they will be employed. There are more than 17,000 police stations, executive law enforcement agencies and all. So everywhere the need is enormous. Only thing is that you should not only get degree, you should get knowledge, you should get hands-on practice of these provisions. So advantage is basically professionalism, forensic evidence collection, emphasis on scientific temper in criminal investigation, and government emphasize, and they are allocated huge budget. The current year, the budget of the central government was to the tune of 20,256 crore. That means more than 2,256 crore. So this is the, you can say the emphasis of the central government, and so are with the state governments also. Now use of technology. Let me just give you a brief description how technology is important. Use of technology enhance speed and accuracy, and more so faith. Suppose if it is based on DNA evidence, based on electronic surveillance, based on electronic report, people will have more faith. The judicial pronouncement are more scientific, more transparent, more professional. So that is the advantage. Section 173, it provides EFIR by electronic means, by email, online portals, mobile application and so on and so forth. Like I tell you that suppose if you suffer with any cyber crime, the helpline is 1930, and you just call them. You can send email also, and your case will get registered. What a beautiful provision by technology. Then zero FIR, mentioned already. Then 105 BNSS, search and seizure through audio video electronic means. This is again a very important point, that there may not be any means allegation that something was implanted. Everything when you are search and seizure is being processed, then it has to be recorded so that it should be transparent. It can be recreated if court or anybody want to see that what had happened. 530, the most important friend. Empower police and court to use technology for search and seizure, collection and preservation of electronic evidence, then digital forensics, then GPS tagging and monitoring of accused on bail. So these are the latest use. Then 530 section subpart 2, legal recognition of electronic communication like email, SMS, WhatsApp, and for that you can serve summon, warrant, orders, notice, and it promote paperless judicial working. So it enhances efficiency. It brings speedy trial. Then recording of evidence via audio video conferencing. Earlier, many of us as police officer, the forensic experts, the witness also, they have to rush to very distantly placed courts. If you are sick or you have some other official work or so many other region, but you are expected to go there in person. So in transport, lot of money was involved, lot of time was wasted. Sometime you go, the court is closed for one region or other. So there were so many, bottlenecks, limitations. Now video conferencing. So every district, every court is equipped with this facility, and now the promotion of the technology has been to that extent that you save your time, energy, and lot of resources, and trial get expedited. Then court can record statement, examination, cross-examination through video conferencing. Then beneficial for vulnerable victims, say somebody had some health issues, maybe some physical issues, maybe some emotional issues, and so on and so forth. Then time saving for experts, police as witness to the court. Then the fourth part of section 530, judgment via electronic mode. Earlier it took a lot of time. If you get copy, then the record rooms were also very filthy, lot of dust, lot of moisture, and sometimes the rat also destroy the files, and so many issues and challenges. Now that has saved the time and energy and space. Then it enhances transparency, speed up access to justice. Then digital case management, and I proudly say that our Honorable Supreme Court, with all state government support and assistance, is building up ICJS, Integrated Judicial System of means this digital format. So now once it is in place, that right from the place of occurrence to the highest level, everything will be digitized, and the authorized person can see every movement and every activity happening over there. No formal codified specified provision, but BNSS support, digital record for case proceeding, use of video recording for confessional statement, centralized criminal data integration CCTNS is already functioning, use of ICJS, I told you already, inter-operational criminal justice system, ICJS, real-time information has to be placed, and then it brought transparency, speed to the justice system. Then search and seizure, very important part of police during investigation. So earlier there were a lot of allegations on police that manipulation and many other things in search and seizures, but now there is recording of search and seizure through audio video provisions that becomes mandatory. The word shall has been used. Now it is not optional. Although lot of resources are to be required, a lot of professional training is required for the policemen and other law enforcement agency members, but it is for the transparency, it is for the professional approach, it is for the better judicial system. So police officer may use mobile phone for the recording of various events. He shall forward such recording to district magistrate, SDM, and joint magistrate and all. first class JM. Then 106 BNSS corresponding section 102 of CRPC for power of police officer to seize certain property. Now impact of technology. The advantages are enormous. Few of them are: it is speed up the system, the process, transparency, accessibility. It is cost effective. Then there are a lot of challenges also. Definitely technology brings a lot of good things, but there are so many challenges as well, and here are the same. The installation cost is quite high, it takes time. Then we have to train our manpower. Then privacy and data security. As I mentioned earlier, we have discussed a lot about this, about the data privacy and the Data Protection Act, DPDP, we have already introduced 2023. We have GDPR from the EU. Then authenticity and chain of custody, again a big deal to do, and we have to bring a lot of procedural refinements and all. Then transnational nature, because digital world has no physical boundaries, there is no limitation of one state to another. Person may be sitting even in kind of space also and may be committing crime. The need to standardize use of AI and automation, cyber security, and of course I propose that in this world we need some independent observer, and that is ombudsman. We have to have a digital India mission for that purpose. Now the time bound disposal and investigation. This is another beauty of BNSS, my dear friends. These are certain sections. Investigation of serious crime. You have to conclude investigation in 90 days, and in other crime, those who are not heinous, the section is 193 part 2, then it is 60 days, cases like POXO and others. Then framing of charge 60 days for first hearing, 251 section. Trial completion 356 says that in absentia of the accused, the trial may be commenced. That is the beauty of this. Judgment after argument. So many times for various reasons, the honorable judges in different courts, they were languishing the judgment to pass even after the completion of the last hearing in the court. But now they are bound to announce the judgment within 30 days from the last hearing. Then ensuring accountability. Provisions are many, but few are. Section 36 for arrest and notice of information to family members. Suppose somebody is being arrested, the family members has to be informed. Then section 105 BNSS, mandatory videography of search and seizure. So these are very important. As I told, 330, 105 and many more sections, they are actually committed to provide the scientific temper into the criminal procedure. Then time bound provisions of accountability of actors of criminal justice system. It enhances speedy trial, it addresses long lasting pendency in the court, and more so, as I told, the scientific temper built the trust among the society at large. It needs infrastructure, other watchdog and others. Now, what are the victim and witness protection? That is also very important. So, instead of giving a descriptive features, I thought to give you in a tabular format. For many of you, it may be easy to remember if you are going to write exam or competitive exam or even in the courts to recapitulate. So, statement by woman officer, suppose if it is a rape case, so the provision earlier, it was advisory under section 163, but it is now mandatory under 180 of BNSS. So, it actually upholds the dignity of the victim. Then medical examination of rape survivor, 164A was the CRPC section, now it is 184 by female registered medical practitioner. Earlier it was not mentioned whether male or female, it was silent, but it is now categorically mentioned that female registered medical practitioner can only conduct the medical legal examination of rape survivor. Then camera proceeding under section 327 under section CRPC, now it is section 122. The sections are almost identical, having no much change, because camera proceeding earlier it was there and now also. The time bound trial, earlier there was no clarity in CRPC, but section 193, it provide even day-to-day trial provision on our BNSS. Earlier it was sometime a practice, but it was not in our statute. Then witness examination via video, there was no structured provision in CRPC, but now it is section 398 for this purpose. Likewise, identity protection. Earlier there was no legal provision, but now section 398 and 479, there is statutory backing for protecting the identity of the witness and victim sometime. Then right to be informed the victim. No specific provision, but now section 337 actually give and provide opportunity to participation of the victim in investigation, even in the trial. So the victim is the ultimate loser, and earlier it was used only like a witness, but now it is the centric point actually right from the beginning till the conclusion of the trial and other proceedings, that he or she should be informed time to time about what is happening in the case. Then technology in procedure. Earlier there was limited to court, whether they use technology or not, but now, as I told, section 330 has these provisions. Then testimony by video conference, victim compensation, they are all very categorically mentioned in a very detailed clarity. Now, with this, I conclude my talk. So friends, we have discussed with you, I have a commitment to you that I will explain these three laws. Although earlier two series were on in a very consecutive days, in a 1 week time, but in last about say more than 25 days I was slightly busy, so forgive me for that. But we were soon bringing you various aspects like constitutionalism and many other topics have been prepared by us for you. I am committed to provide you the best knowledge, tested knowledge, experienced knowledge to upgrade your skills, to upgrade your strength, to muster your courage, to stand before court, to stand before interview board, to face the examination so that you may be the winner. Let us strengthen the system, the society, and each one of you. With this, I conclude my talk for today with this request that please subscribe our channel Dr. G.K. Goswami IPS and share with others. With this, thank you and goodbye.